Cool. All right, guys, I just wanted to thank everybody. It's been pretty cool. We've had like 12 to 20 on every week, and of course it's recorded, but we went over the education of it on the first call, and then really all the different testing recommendations on the next and testing recommendations on the that call. And then we want to this phase 1, 2, and 3 for both speed and agility warm-ups. And then last week we did level 1, which is speed and game speed. And it's day 1 was basically speed training and overloading acceleration or touching max V, however you want to do it. But really day 2 of level 1 agility, when we wanted to coach agility in level 1, it was learning game speed. And I really think that is a missing component from what I have found when we coach agility with even pro athletes is no one has taught them about how to get into game speeds and how easy it is. And I actually did it with a group at community school just this week. For about a week or two, we've been doing 15-yard sprints in our turf inside. And, got this whiteboard going and I'm just writing it down. And, everyone's PR is whatever. Like, a kid's PR is 132 to 136. Every time he runs, he's 132 to 136. And then I said, hey, we're going to do game speed 5-10 flies a day. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, all I want you to do is practice hitting the ground and pushing 2 to 3 steps and keeping your movement. And it was real interesting because, some kids would hit their PR or be close to it. And they started to learn, but they're like, well, what does this mean? Like, don't you want me to be fast? My PR is 132 and 134. And you're saying I did good because I went 135. And I'm like, but you went 135 and you barely tried. And they're like, yeah. So then I got to bring out a stopwatch and I give every kid a stopwatch and they start going beep, beep. And they look at it, beep, beep. And no one can get under 0.12 and everyone's 0.12 to 0.20. And I'm like, you're literally slowing down 1/4 of those 2 beeps and you're not even trying. So this one girl, Mia Jackson, would like to hear this. Mia's like, I still don't get it. I'm like, okay, Mia, you're like right around 138 to 140 on your split because 137 to 138 is a fast girl. You're at about 140. I said, what I want you to do is sprint 15 yards, and then after you hear that second beep, stop. She's like, stop when? I said, I don't care. Sprint 15 yards. You'll hear the first beep at 5, the second beep at 15, then stop. So she does it, and of course she stops like 9 yards past the second beep. And I said, great, you were 141. You weren't a PR, but you're close. I said, now game speed. She goes, so just push the ground and move. I said, yeah, push the ground and move. And when you hear that second beep, stop. So she did, and she stopped within 4 yards. And I said, so you just saved 5 yards of space. And on your one fly, it was 140 when you try to sprint. Your next one was 142. So you literally you gained 200ths of speed, which is not good, but you gained 5 yards of being able to stop. And like it was like an aha moment for her. And it's like that with any pro athlete or any kid is we started teaching their game speed on their agility days. And that's what level 1 is all about. On agility days, practice foot placement, practice all that, but you've got to teach game speed and how easy it is to get close to your max speed on a 5 to 10 fly, but not be trying to do it. Before I go on to level 2 and dive into tonight, does anyone have any questions about that? Because if you can't, it's hard to explain game speed and show game speed, but you got to keep hammering in until the kids and coaches understand, oh, it's explosion and momentum, not explosion and go. Any questions about that or observations?
With your time that you've been working at your school or even kids in your facility, how long do you typically like to stay in that level 1 to they actually feel it? Because we still got some kids that are having trouble with even the warm up, the outside leverage and push and understanding that. And I was telling our coaches like beforehand, I was like, we're probably going to do this all January, and I'm still looking, and it's like, yeah, we're going to bleed this into February too.
Well, that's how Josh and I, when we originally made it, it was like spend 12 weeks in level 1. So you could do a workout like 4 times before they got it, right? Because there's like a day 1 workout and a day 2 workout. And they were doing day 1 agility for 4 straight ones, day 2 agility for 4 straight ones, and then go on to phase 2, right? So we did have it set for level 1 was 12 weeks. but then I kind of changed it to 4 to 6 weeks in case if you had to rush through it. So it just depends. If you have kids all year, like, and you're really trying to teach them and they're younger, I would spend 10 to 12 weeks in level one, and
Okay.
before you go on to level two. But if you're
Yep.
trying to rush through it just because you're going to try to get through level one, level two, level three before a season or summer, then you can only spend 4 to 6 weeks, and you just try to get them to learn as much as you can and then move on because there's more angles to do,
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that
No
makes a
problem.
lot of sense, kind of where we're at, and I'm trying to not rush it if we don't have to. And
I wouldn't.
yeah.
All these basics in level one, my pros are going to come back in March. They know it, but they enjoy watching it being taught to new pros,
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
sure.
And I'm like, let's do some 5-10 flies, and then let's do some rate of return on steps of acceleration. Let's do some rate of return on if we try to go faster or not. And we start throwing it down. And, we were going to do 6 15-yard sprints that day anyway. So we just kind of threw in game speed agility training with it, and they kind of understand it.
Yeah.
Because it's just like when your kids come back through it the next year, they're so much more ahead, you know?
Mhm.
So,
Tony, how
um,
much are you sprinkling in your 5 to 10 yard stops with your game speed?
not yet. Like I was just doing that with Mia just to show. Like if you are thinking explode momentum and then stop versus sprint and stop, you're saving 5 yards. The phase I'm deciding to do with my athletes is I'm in a speed, not even a speed, I'm in a strength, power, and acceleration phase with them for 6 weeks, where we're really doing squatting, broad jumping, gear two, 5-10 flies, that type of stuff, right? And they do that Monday, Wednesday, and then Tuesday, Thursday is upper body day. Wednesday they're off, and then the kids that want to come in Saturday, I sprinkle in game speed, just movement with them, right? So this Saturday, I was like, shoot, we got 18 kids here, and all Wednesday I was writing down all your 5-10 flies. Let's do some game speed stuff. So I brought out the lasers just on a whim, just to teach them about game speed. Because I'm just sprinkling in game speed on Saturdays. And then what I'll do is, like, after 6 weeks, they're going to have what they have. Then I'm going to start touching max V more with my sprinting. So it's kind of like I'm in right now I'm in my uh, speed and agility warm-ups, just phase two, really acceleration. And then what I'm going to do in March is really go to phase three and advanced sprint drills in the top speed. And that's when I'm going to start making sure they can stop better. So I'll do the 5-10 fly with the decel then. That's just how I'm going to do it to keep it simple. And then when I get into I'm probably going to my plan is I'm going to have like 100 pro athletes tested on 5-10 flies, 20-10 flies, what their 40s were with me, what their 40s were at Indy, what their broad jump is, because those are my go-tos: broad, short flies, long flies, and what their 40 estimated is. I don't really care what their 40 is, and then after that, I'm teaching acceleration and stopping. And when they can teach that, then I'm going to start teaching them roll 90s and comebacks. Any other comments or questions?
So your roll 90 and comebacks would almost be coming if you went March for max. Sorry, if we went March for max, that would be roll 90s comeback almost going into the summer then. And spend a lot
So
of
like I want to touch it in March when we start upping agility with them, right?
Okay.
I want to
Yep.
touch it and try to teach it to them, but then in the summer, I'm going to go back to like a feed the cats approach, or just let me dose in some speed with you, and we're going to work game speed. And I've got my kids prepped. Better watch out, Jackson and St. John Newman. Just kidding. No, but I got my kids prepped, and I'm sure Jackson's doing the same thing. All we're trying to do is start first. That's it. Start first and start fast. That's it. And just give yourself an ability to, you can't tell a kid or a pro athlete not to sprint on that field. They're going to, right?
Yep.
But
Yep.
any amount of confidence they have that they can, if they move first, they're in a better position, is all you're trying to do on a field, right? And just if they have any inkling that I can move and control and change directions better, that's amazing on the field. So that's what we're really going to start in the summer, is just, feed the cats approach one day, dose in acceleration in the weight room, do some flies, and then get right into agility, like game speed, hitting all the angles that I'm about to talk about today.
And that's the fun part, folks.
Yep. Come down, see me and Jackson go through fisticuffs on the sidelines. Two Christians. Well, no, you're a Christian school. I guess I'm not.
We all play each other.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
We
We're
do.
like-
So we
we're like
rivals.
rivals.
I gotta find the date on that game. I need to know the date.
we're like
Hey.
rivals, man.
Somehow we rivals, and these jokers are taking this thing all serious, and I'm over here like, I'm not getting paid enough for this mess. Why am I even doing this?
We keep telling people, me and Jackson are just like, we just want to help kids and train them. Like that's
Right.
it. Like,
Right. I mean, like, just like Tony was talking about the acceleration phase. The kind of like today, one of my athletes goes, Coach, man, well, look, because we went, we went gear two on the treadmill, and then after that, we went on the field and work on some acceleration, deceleration. Kind of like you were talking about game speed. I was working with one of them. He goes, man, it's so easy to accelerate on the ground after accelerating on the treadmill. And I said, yeah, that's what the treadmill does for you. Like, if you have the proper form, proper mechanics, the same way you did on the treadmill, you should go ahead and do it on the ground. He's like, man, can we do this more often? I'm like, yeah, this is why we're here for, bro.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then, so now I'm going to talk about level 2. Like, I still think the meat potatoes of our program, and I keep telling people, keep it simple, stupid, focus on the basics. And if you just do our speed and agility warm-ups and do them correctly, like that is speed and agility training. Then level 1 is adding resistance to speed, and start learning game speed before agility. And then level 2 is how do you attack angles? And Anquan Bolden is a big part of this level because, and Travis Kelce a lot too, just because Anquan is, he's not the originator of this, but he was the originator that opened up my mind of let's teach everyone to attack angles like a receiver. And then I watched what it did for guys like teaching Mark Ingram routes, Travis Kelce, of course, Cortland Sutton, just people that listen to his approach of getting, and this is anyone, this is a lacrosse girl. If she sits there and shakes a girl around so much, I don't care if she makes the girl miss by 3 yards when she goes by her. If she took too much time to do it, the whole play is missed her and everybody's back already. And what Anquan Bolden teaches is just attack a damn shoulder. Either come to base or attack a shoulder and get into attacking as soon as possible. And it's just the same for every sport. It's basketball. It's everything. Like, and I kind of talked to our receivers about it the other day. I was like, when y'all get to the NFL, it's not if you can get open by 3 yards because you shook a guy so bad, but it took you 3.5 seconds to get open by 3 yards. It's literally, can you get open in 2 seconds by 1 yard? And that's where games are won as level increases. And that's what Anquan Bolden really, really talks about all the time. So on phase 1, the linear foot placement workout is just linear means you're running straight. And how are we attacking 45 degrees? How are we starting and stopping? How are we just like quick attacking, plant attacking, just different ways to attack 45 degrees running forward. And then the same way you attack running forward is the same way you attack if you're starting and stopping, because that's a forward movement. So all your straight through breakdowns and your start and stop breakdowns, you come out and attack 45 degrees in all angles the same way. So we combine those a little bit in phase 1 agility. Phase 1 linear. And it's really just different ways to attack 45. We give tons of drills and education to do it. You don't have to do them all again. That's not the goal. I try to overload the education. Pick 3 or 4 of them that you're comfortable with and just rep them. You don't have to do them all again. But that's all it is in phase 1 is teaching athletes different ways to get to 45-degree angles. It's a slant. It's a post route. It's a quick step on a pass rush. It's a jab step in basketball. It's anything. Anybody attacks 45, they need to learn those drills. Any questions about phase 1 linear foot placement, just going to 45? We throw in 45-degree skate hop there because just leveraging your outside foot is how you run and leverage your outside foot. So a 45-degree straight hop is a great drill, and you're cueing people to attack 45 degrees off their outside foot. So that's why we throw that in. Any
Tony,
questions about that?
Tony, would
Go
you
ahead.
recommend exposing them to more patterns that you have, or to attack them off both feet? Because I've been moving into going not just outside foot, because obviously ideal situation, you're going to plant off your outside foot, but stuff happens in sport, right? Brain turns on, body moves, going off their inside foot. So attacking
Yep.
45 off the inside foot versus, teaching them, attack, react, or, attack inside. I know we have a tons of stuff on there,
Yeah.
but what would you recommend? Expose them to different patterns outside foot, or have them go off inside and outside to 45?
Well, I think like on phase one, now lateral foot placement's the second day. So
Mhm.
that's when we do like wide base crossover, inside lunge, hop setups.
Yeah,
If that makes sense, right?
it does.
So it's, if we're running forward, we're normally going to attack our outside foot. But once we start learning to shift back and forth, we start telling them, hey, how else can we get to 45? It may be our inside foot's down and we outside foot, I still attack 45. Inside foot, I can still attack 45. So that's kind of what we threw into phase two, or phase one linear foot placement. That's what we threw into phase one lateral foot placement workout. It's how are we attacking 45 when we're moving lateral, not running forward or starting and stopping. How are we doing it when we're moving lateral? And we throw lateral movements in there, and also ickies. Ickies, all that means is I'm going 1-2 and then I'm on my outside foot. 1-2 and then I'm on my outside foot. If you go laterally through a ladder or hash marks or linebacker bags, you go 1-2, 1, you're on your outside foot. 1-2, it's an icky. So moving laterally through something or going ickies through something is just attacking something moving laterally. They're both the same. So that's why we teach 4 basic ladder drills straight through, start and stop, and all the come outs of those are the same, and lateral through and ickies, and all the come outs of those 2 are the same. So that's what we throw into lateral foot placement phase 1 in this level. And again, it's just quick plant to 45, attack plant to 45. It's just different ways to get their brains to think. And it's pretty cool because they start to learn, oh, my eye see it, my body saw it, my foot placement saw it. Yes, you're going to attack that. My eyes didn't see it. My body position's out. My foot placement's wrong. You're going to react to it. And that's a key thing to start teaching people at a young age is when did you attack? When did you react? And they'll start to learn. And kids come to me all the time. Yeah, I attacked that coach. I attacked that coach. Yeah, I was waiting on that one. And that's what you want to get them to feel. Like when you're waiting on it or you're anticipating or you're attacking, did you attack it or did you react to it? And that's kind of some of the stuff we're talking about. So before I go on to phase 2, linear foot placement, and phase 2, lateral foot placement, does anyone have any questions about that?
If I'm way ahead of it, and I'm sorry.
No,
for-
you're all right.
What is any of that stuff of what you eventually say, like what Revis told you, like, hey, just don't let me open up and run? Does that place within some level 1 linear stuff if we're backpedaling, working defensive backs? Because I have our DB coach who's all into this right now. He's like, all right, what do we do backpedaling? What do we do backpedaling? And
I should have I should have videoed my call I did with Kirk McLaughlin today because I went through DB training 101.
okay,
And me and Josh have been talking about it for years. I will get that on video before
you're
we
all
get
good
to,
on that. I've
Yeah, but it's
still the foot first. So yeah,
it's going to be it's going to be 30 minutes of new content of just
Okay.
little 1 to 2 minute videos, but it's literally how a DB mirrors everything out of a backpedal and attacks it or has to react to it, right? And
Okay.
it's pretty cool. And I think there's some stuff on level 5 or 6, Josh, when I'm out on the field working out of back pedals, I think, but let me go back and find it.
Okay.
Because it's DB training 101 is one of our levels that we're going to do, and I just haven't done it yet.
That is correct. It is in 5 and 6.
Okay. So then any other questions? Okay, so then we're just going into phase 2 linear foot placement, and it's just different types of 45-degree skate hops, more plant separate to 45 degrees, tacking upfield 45 degrees. We have a video in there, youth athletes versus pro athletes, how to do it. Like they're teaching everyone. And we start throwing in how do you attack and roll to 90, right? And I throw a lot of pro athletes in there, turning 45 into 90 degrees in a turn, right? Because before you can go to 90, you've got to go to 45. And if we can attack 45, we shoot upfield. But if you attack 45 and then just take that inside foot and lean, so you attack 45, lean, and then push another 45, that turns it into a roll where you're picking up speed. So that's why we really go through on phase 2 straight ahead. It's not only different ways to attack 45 more, but turning that 45 degrees into 90. And we work on break plant separating to 90. If we want to settle in somewhere, we break plant separate. If we want to go around somewhere, we roll. So think of coming around to pick. If I'm coming around to pick in basketball and I'm going to the 3-point line, I'm rolling. But if I'm hiding right underneath that pick, I'm break plant separating, right? So like you do want to teach both ways to go to 90. One gets me A to B farther and faster. The other sets up the angle better. So we do that in phase 1. Phase 2, linear foot placement, and tons of videos in there just to work on 45 degrees and going to 90. And then we end it with in and out, right? We went straight through. Now starting and stopping, hitting the same angles. And like Josh says, we talk about sometimes doing it off our outside foot. And since we learned inside foot's in here. And it's just, teaching them different ways. And I think some of y'all have done this now where kids start to ask, well, which way you want me to change directions, coach? I want you to do it this style. And they're like, all right. And what I do sometimes is when a kid asks and I haven't given directions, I'm like, do it however you want. And then everybody behind you has to mimic it, and that's sometimes fun. I don't care how you go 90 degrees, you do it how you want. And they'll do it. And I'll be like, ooh, you kind of spun in place on that one. They're like, yeah, I didn't attack that one. Okay, everybody spin in place, practice fast feet replace, right? And then I'll call somebody else up. Oh, next rep. Hey, I need you to do a roll to that 90. Okay, coach. Then they'll roll to it. Okay, let's everybody roll. Hey, I need you to break plant separate to it. Everybody will come in. They'll miss the break plant separate. They'll fast feet replace. No, we got to fix it. Break plant separate. So it's just fun to, you're doing the same drill, but just throwing different ways and making their brain think. And it makes the session go by pretty fast, honestly. Any questions about that straight through, tacking 45 more, but now learning the roll 90 on that one? And a lot of cool pros. If y'all can pull up those pros doing the drills, it's always fun to say, hey, 3 steps attack, 3 more steps attack. Whoa, where'd you end up? You're 25 yards down the turf, Did you even think about running? Nah, I just concentrated on just keeping my position. And okay, that's what we mean. We can cover space with game speed. Any questions with that?
Hey, Tony.
Yes, sir.
Derek Clark here. And I apologize if you answered this in some of the earlier videos. I haven't had a chance to go back and watch those.
Not a
When
problem.
you're talking about your different drills, do you find a kind of a point of diminishing returns in terms of how much volume you're getting them on their new drills? Like when you get some of your new pro athletes or even some of your younger kids, like you're looking at, hey, 5 to 8 reps of this or 5 to 8 reps of that. If they're not getting it, maybe move on, or, hey, I want to really stay on that longer. And, that's when I struggle with, like, where's that perfect volume kind of thing sometimes?
2 things. One, don't beat yourself up. And I've mentioned this before, but it's always good. I went to Texas and was at the high school strength and conditioning one, and they sent me kids to train, and they were legit Texas football players, right? And I was trying to teach them rolling 90 and coming back and box drills and all this stuff. And I thought I was doing good. But they weren't getting it, but I kept what I'd do it a few times. They wouldn't get it. And what I'd always do, Derek, is then back down. Well, let me make it simpler for you. Let's, you're not able to come to 90 very good. So let me set your feet up correctly in and out, and then stop, and then go to 90, right? Instead of having running go 90. So I just kept backing it down. But one coach came up to me and he said, it was good to see you not be able to get those kids to do it right, because I always thought I was doing something wrong. you know? And I'm like, no, it's just hard. And so I normally try to do something like 3 to 4 times. And if they don't get it, I'm like, okay, we're going to back it down some. And if I have to split in 2 groups, I'll back one group down and send another group over there that knows what they're doing and they'll elongate it out or something. Yeah, but I'm constantly like backing it down. And I'm lucky because I don't know. I hope most athletes are like this, but the high school kids that are advanced or the pros that are advanced in the workout, when I have to back it down, they normally don't get mad. They're just like, we're just going through these reps anyway. Let's back it down and make sure everyone's doing it right. You know, and I tell them like these agility drills are just they're muscle memory. Like it doesn't matter which ones we do, as long as we're doing them on our off speed days, we're getting such benefit. You know.
All right. Thanks.
Hope that no problem.
What's
Yeah,
what's
fine.
that time frame that you tend to stay in that phase two? And what would be your ideal and then your shortened time frame?
My shortened time would be 2 weeks, right? You're getting each workout twice if you're doing it 2 times a week, right? So you do the linear one on Tuesday, the lateral one Thursday, then you repeat it. Linear one on Tuesday, lateral one on Thursday. But that's a quick turnaround to get them to know it. So they may not master it by then, right? And you may move on. If you're trying to hurry. If not, I make sure I always find if they do the workout once, they're lost, right? Do it a second time, they knew it was coming, they're better. By the third or fourth, they normally get it pretty good enough if you're taking your time to move on.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I appreciate it.
No problem. Anybody else? Okay, so then we just get into phase 2. It's how to attack 45 and 90 degrees, but moving laterally or moving side to side with the icky. And I think I don't know if I have Mark Ingram in this level, but he was great with it. But like I told Mark Ingram like 6, 7 years ago, we got him fast enough to start breaking long runs. And then it was like we let him go back to what he was good at. But I started teaching him how to run routes like Anquan Bolden, right? And it was great for planned attack. But then I thought about Mark Ingram, like he's more reactive attack. And what I mean by that is Anquan Bolden starts at A, has got to get to B, and he can't change his mind. He's got to deceive and get to B as fast as possible for that quarterback to like him. I equate that to a basketball player. Everyone knows where the goal is, a lacrosse player. Everyone knows where the goal is. But if I'm way down here, I'm trying to manipulate you so much and still get to the goal. That's why I love that planned attack. But Revis started telling me, you know, when I'm trailing Anquan, I don't know where he's going. I got to be able to do it off of both feet. Anquan's always planning. He knows exactly where he's setting me up. But Revis has got to start learning how to, like, instead of just rolling 90 outside, inside, outside, sometimes Revis got to learn to go inside, outside, inside and get it done in 3 steps the best way he can. And you don't have as good leverage because you didn't push off your foot twice outside. But if this foot was in the air and Anquan Bolden started rolling, I got to go inside, outside, inside and get the best I can. And it was the same thing on Revis always talking about playing basketball. Revis like, I don't care if I play off my outside foot. I'm sometimes going off my inside foot. And I'm like, yeah, it's a wide base crossover. It's how we steal bases. That's how tennis players move. That's how boxing. Yeah, let's teach crossovers. Like if I get my base, let's cross. And Revis is like, yeah, so if I'm like my outside foot and I got to go this way, I'll jab to it. But if I'm on my inside foot like this, I'll cross to it. I'm like, yeah, you're in the exact same space. It just depends where your body is when you decide to go. So once when Revis told me there is such stuff as reactive, planned, right? Like depending on what foot's in the air, I started to go to Mark and I started to say, hey man, we want to learn how to run routes. But every time someone tells you to cut off your outside foot, that's not always optimal. Let's start learning how to do stuff off of outside and inside foots. And Mark's like, you're right. Now, I didn't come up with that. Like, I definitely didn't create it. And I definitely didn't create a great running back. Just pull up some old Barry Sanders clips. Like, Barry Sanders, like, just watch him. When he sits down and he's wide, he's crossing. When he's up high and he's running, he's off his outside foot. Right? So I didn't make that up. But then you start watching it. Yeah, when you're running and you're higher like a receiver, you're attacking outside foots, you know it's going. When you're sitting and you're wider, like a basketball player, inside footer, you're crossing. And then you start looking at boxers. When they're up high and they're pouncing around, they're jabbing. When they're low and defending a takedown, they're wide, they're crossing. So it's like, that's when you start getting into this phase 2 of this and moving laterally and stuff. We start learning lateral to attacking outside, lateral to sitting inside. And again, you don't have to do all of them. It's just giving you ideas to do to work different things with kids. And we've tried to put it, me and Josh have been killing ourselves with this for years, but we did like a year ago put this in a good order, and that's why I'm going through it now. And this thing that I keep referencing is now printed out at the beginning of the game speed curriculum under the summary, so you can kind of see what each level works on, right? And then the glossary is kind of crazier, I'm sorry, but you can look at where every single drill is in there. Eventually, we hope to put like a search bar, so you can just search and it takes you to. But like, this thing hasn't changed much, but the organization of it has. And now it's going to be my ability to add in the defense. And now it's going to be my ability, or not my ability, my desire. Okay, we're moving on. I love Anquan Bolden. Travis, I love you. You're still playing. Mark, you're done. I've got to get the new guys in, the Denzel Wards, and I got to get those guys to explain. And like Stephon Gilmore is going to explain. It's funny when they explain. I promise to God, it's going to sound like a broken record. It will sound like a broken record to what everybody's been saying. The greatest ones I have found, that they're like, it's a broken record. They all sound the same. Any questions about that phase 2 lateral foot placement? Because it's still attacking 45 and 90. It's just you're moving laterally or shifting side to side when you do it. Okay. And then phase 3 is just linear foot placement workout. And it's different ways to go 45, 90, break plant, but it's pretty cool because Mark and Travis were in that a lot. And now we're just running forward doing it. We're kind of coming out of hash marks, coming out of a ladder. We're not using parameters to put our feet correctly. We're just practicing running and setting it up. Running and setting it up. And I hope you watch it because it's not advanced. It's just literally, hey, show speed. Try to show speed and then find a position. Hey, dance into it. Try to be saucy. Find a position, right? Get high, get low, find a position. It's all about, no matter what you do beforehand, finding the correct position when you change directions, go A to B as fast as possible, or as efficiently as possible. So that's all phase 3 linear foot placement is. And then the lateral one is kind of the same thing. It's just more drills to where we're using some hash marks, but we're just kind of trying to move more in space and do it, right? And once when you're done this level 2, kids should have learned how to train for speed, how to be fast, how to control speed, how to be fast enough with game speed. And right after level 2, they should learn how to, no matter what direction they're moving, forward, starting and stopping, lateral, or shifting side to side, making moves, they should know how to attack 45, roll 90, and break plant separate to 90. And after level 2, it's eye-opening because what's coming next is level 3, and it's going to follow the same format, but it's not 45 and 90 now. Now it's the 135 and the 180, like total change of direction drills in level 3. Any questions about those? Now I'm trying. Josh has seen it, but like I'm on an app right now, and our game speed, I can't see it. Game speed content's on there, and we're trying to get it logoed as the XPE game speed content. Look at emails every week about it, and I keep saying it's coming, but I promise it's coming. So it will be on a mobile app, like maybe tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe 2 weeks. Who knows? I get told every time, every week, it's coming. But this whole curriculum that you have to go onto your computer, it's not, you don't have to do anything else. Hopefully, very soon to just download the XP Game Speed app and it'll be right on your phone. And that's what I'm looking at because I got a test version of it. So when I'm looking at like, well, what's the next drill? What's the next drill? I'm just on my mobile app. So it will be easier, more accessible. And I think that'll help coaches because now on your phone outside, you could say, I'm going to do some level two stuff today. I'm going to bring this out. I know what 4 drills I want to do, but man, maybe I'll open up this drill while kids are working and look at it. So hopefully that gets it better and a little easier.
What's
What's
the name
crazy,
of the app, Tony?
it's going to be called XPE Game Speed, but
Okay,
you
but
can't
it's
find
not.
it. You
it's
can't
not
find
out
it
yet.
on the stores yet. It's,
Okay.
we're just technology issues.
Okay.
Man, we're trying hard. There's a lot of movement on that today, man. Maybe we'll have a great surprise in the morning.
We'll see. But like it was crazy is level 2, just level 2 is 63 lessons, right? It's a lot of stuff in there. But if you start to reframe it as all we're learning in level 2 is how to run and attack 45 and roll 90, and all we're learning in level 2 is how to shift side to side and attack 45 and 90 degrees. That's all we're learning. And once when you learn that, it puts it a little bit like easier to digest. And now I'm just going to open it up for questions. None? I'll give everybody about 10 seconds if they want to ask a question. Then I'll turn off the recording, and then if somebody wants to stay on and talk about something, I'll stay on.
On your level 2 stuff, I know you talked about like Texas stuff and everything. Like, what is the biggest glaring thing you feel like first explaining it to the masses or people unfamiliar with it, that it's like, okay, this is always going to occur? And has there been something that's like
the roll 90s people suck at? They just suck at it, right? And it's so hard when you do the roll 90 test. If you're doing it in this level or you've done it before, it's so hard to teach them explode, push, move, and set up your roll. They all go too fast at it. And in the Alabama clinic I was just at, you know, I hadn't done a roll 90 in a long time, and John Herschel was supposed to have kids for me, right? And he didn't. Luckily I brought my cleats, and I was like, Jesus, I'm just going to try not to pop a hamstring or an Achilles. But I went out there and like, I'm 50, right? But I knew what I was doing. It like came back like riding a bike. So I said, coaches, I'm going to do this roll 90 test, but I'm going to go fast and I'm going to hit an angle and I'm going to see what that time says, right? And this is what people, no matter what you tell them, this is what they do. I ran in, I broke down and got out, but I was like 2.07 seconds on the roll 90 test. And everybody thought it was good. And I was like, guys, now I'm going to go back down to Anquan Bolden 101. What do I know? Well, I know from our level 1 speed and game speed that if I'm changing directions at 10 yards, it's really only 1 or 2 pushes of speed and then movement. Like we learned that, like we've all learned that, I hope, in level 1 now. So I said, I'm going to go back to Anquan Bolden 101. I'm only going to push 2 steps, and then I'm just going to move, and then I'm going to roll. You know, so I'm taking speed away from messing up my change of direction. And it was great, Brad, because Tony Holler was there, right? And I hit this roll, and I dropped down to 1.77 seconds or something, you know? And I'm like, I literally just saved 3/10 by controlling my speed and hitting a roll. So I find no matter who you show that to, even if I show people that, they're going to go too fast into it the first time. You know, so just teaching the controlled roll is very important. And when you're trying to teach a controlled roll, normally they're going to go break plant on their own.
Yep.
That's why I teach the roll first. Let's teach the best way from A to B first, you know, and then we'll learn the break plant and see how close we can get to it. So, and then another thing I find that's just eye-opening, and I talk about it all the time, is if we got that 90 set up where we run like here and then we roll 90, right? And if we go here and our feet chop and do anything, that's 2/3 of a second every time. That's very eye-opening. But if I go to here and roll 90, if I'm having a person having a hard time hitting this roll, I take the cone that's right here and I just move it in 1 foot, not a yard, a foot. So not a foot towards me, a foot diagonal in, right? And when you move it a foot diagonal in, everybody was freaked out in Alabama. I said, now I'm just going to shave 1 foot, not a yard, a foot. I took my shoe off, I put it down, I moved the cone in, put my shoe back on. I said, I'm going to shave 1 foot off this turn. And I shaved 1 foot and I dropped from 177 to 160. I said, I dropped another 0.17. So I dropped 0.3 by controlling my speed. I dropped another 0.17 by hitting an angle 1 foot sooner. So a lot of times with these tests, it just starts totally opening the eyes to everyone. Controlled speed and angles is the name of the game. And I have found no matter what you tell people to do, until you bring out lasers, they don't believe it. They just don't, you know? I am trying to do the thing with B1. I finally, like they picked me as one of the 5 projects they're going to do, I heard today. And I'm going to have a 6-step angle tree with them, which teaches all these drills in one simple drill, right? And so you could basically video analysis any kid versus me or Cortland Sutton or Travis Kelsey or Mark Ingram, our top high school kids. And it'll be called a 6-step angle tree where you run 3 steps, attack 45, run 3 steps, roll 90. Run 3 steps, and then you got a decel, break, sit, wide base crossover to 180. Run 3 steps, but decel, break, sit, tight, come to 135. So it's going to be every single angle that you need on all these. And if you shoot all 4 of them, you know, 2 from the front and 2 from the side, kids can get immediate video analysis of what they're doing. So that will be the next go around, the next thing we're trying. Long-winded answer, I'm sorry.
Tony, when you're running that, when you're doing that roll 90 test, have you ever checked realistically how fast the first 2 step of acceleration is?
I really haven't. That would be interesting. I just know no matter how fast a human is, you really
Right.
can't beat 150 at that test.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
anytime like someone gets to like 15, I've seen a 148. You know, I think they get under 150 like when they hit it perfect and their knee goes over the cone a little
Yes.
bit.
Mm.
So they still take their outside foot on the outside of the cone, their next outside foot's on the outside, but their inside foot kind of went over. But I don't know how much force they need with those first 2 steps, but I don't think it's much. I truly
Right.
don't. I don't
Right.
think it's as much force production as you think. So when you look at that, think about it. Like this is why Anquan Bolden was so right. He kept telling me to run routes at 14 to 15 miles an hour. And I was like, you are effing crazy. We are not running routes at stuff. Like that's what we do. I'm like, no. We're going to learn to run routes at like 18, 19 miles an hour. It's like, you're crazy. Right? And then when you do that roll 90 test, if you have a 4.2 guy that can run 23 and 24 miles an hour, and he can get within 10 yards, he can get 18 to 19 miles an hour easily by 10 yards, right? When he does his roll 90 test, if he goes too fast, he gets 165. When he slows down and does it perfect, he gets 150. That 150 split is averaging, I want to say, I think it's 13 miles an hour through there, or 11.7. Hold on, do that real quick. I don't want to mess this up. But I did it on my math one day. 20.45 divided by 1.50 is 13.6. So from yard 5 to doing the roll for 10 yards, you're averaging 13.6. That means you're maybe doing the turn at 11.6, and the highest speed you ever got to was 15.6, right? So think about what Anquan was saying. We run our routes at 14 to 15 miles an hour. To get the tightest turn, you can't be over 15 miles an hour. You know? Now, Tank Dell and these guys, they've run routes, I've seen it, at 17.1 miles an hour when they have 18 yards to do a comeback. But they say, look at this acceleration by Tank Dell. When you put a speedometer, it's 17.1 miles an hour. And that's a light guy, you know, with 18 yards of running. So it's not as much power as you think. It's deceptive power in that show speed, not go speed, right?
Right.
I talk about it in the Luka effect, right? Just get them moving, use their body against them. you know, the Luca effect, the Anquan Bolden effect, like just get their shoulders a turn, make them chase you. You know, they know where you're going still, but you can just get them moving, you know?
Yeah.
Any other questions? I'm gonna hit stop record and then I'll stay on for anybody that wants to talk a little bit.